Hello and welcome my dear skill modelers to my small hobby YouTube channel. My name is Tomo and today we're going to be taking a look at my hands which are building a thing. Oh yeah, and this thing is my London Taxi from Revell in 1/24th scale. If you want to see a full video in-depth review of this car, please check out my previous video that I made for you and for your viewing pleasure. Like per usual, I do all the basic stuff in the beginning, which is snipping off the bits that I don't need and snipping all the bits that I do need from the sprues. Here you see me snip out all the wheels, the hood, the hinges, and of course I snipped off some of the plastic sprues from the body of the car. The plan for this build is to make the car as realistic as possible, and that's why I didn't want to make it shiny and brand new. So hopefully I will be successful by the end of the video, but you can be the judge of that. Like usual, I sand out the surface of the car because there were some imperfections, especially here you can see there are nasty edges which you have to remove. And also I sand the surface prior to priming it so that the primer will have something to grip on. For just a scuffing up, I used a 3000 grit paper from Tamiya, like a sponge. Like you see me here, sanding away really fast. Oh, by the way, I will be speeding up the whole process, otherwise this thing is gonna take forever, and we don't have time for ever. Anyway, I've sanded the hell out of this body, making it all smooth and perfect. It took me roughly about half an hour of sanding just to make it presentable. This bump in particular was nasty. So yeah, this was pretty fun. I repeated the process of sanding, lightly sanding actually, the surface with 3000 grit Tamiya sanding sponge for the bonnet or the hood. And I also tidy up some edges here because I was kind of careless when I was cutting them out from the sprues. And I want to make sure that once I put the hood on the body of the car, that it fits so that I wouldn't have any terrible gaps. I did most of the stuff off camera. I just, recorded a couple of things. And this is basically what I was trying to achieve here. As you can see, the fit is pretty good. It's not that bad. Oh, and by the way, the zoom action is digital. That's why it's crappy, because I'm using my phone. I don't have a proper DSLR camera. This is probably gonna be in the future, hopefully, but for now, it's okay. Here I'm gluing in the brackets, actually the things that hold the hinges. I don't know the direct terminology, but these are basically inserts into which you attach the hinges. And the first major issue of fit is in those hinges. The tolerance are really bad. I mean, they are really bad. And when I was fitting this, I had tremendous trouble making sure that they will be level, straight, and that the gap will be good. Because I used Tamiya regular cement, and you can see I made it okay, but in hindsight, if I would do it again, I would probably leave them a little bit more exposed. I would lift them up slightly more, because as you will see at the end of the video, you can't really open the hood very much because there are some restrictions because I glued them on too tight. And also when I fitted the hinges, I also inserted the inner portion, the cabin, so that I would make sure that I wouldn't have any nasty surprises after the glue has been set. The next nasty thing for this kit would be the hole underneath the taxi sign. When you fit the sign onto the roof, you have a small gap that's protruding above the roof, and you can see inside, and I wanted to fix that. I wanted to address it by cutting up some styrene, gluing it to the bottom, and then cutting it out into the shape of the part, as you can see here. I just glued it in, and then I snipped around the edges, and afterwards you'll see me sanding the edges and making them all nice and pretty. So the aim was really to make the car as realistic as possible, and I really wanted to put some electrification into this car. So I wanted to put like working lights and then the sign and the blinkers, because the car in its base already has a compartment for a AA battery, which I didn't tell in my review, by the way. You can put a AA battery at the very back of the car, but you also have to put, the springs and all the wires and switches to make the thing work. But I decided not to do this because that would just add a little more complexity to the build, and I just wanted to build the car as is. because it's a really fun and simple car to build. Here I am basically just scrubbing the car with alcohol to make it, dust free before priming it, and also the hood. This time I decided to use AK Interactive's gray primer with microfiller. The reason that I wanted to use it is because first, I have it, and second, I have to test it, and third, I have to test it on a model that has scratches on it. And because I was sanding the surface with my sanding papers, I thought, what better way to try it than on this model? And I have to say that it works out a treat. Really great. It covers fantastically. It also reveals all the imperfections left still on the car, and it dries crazy fast. So you really need to, first of all, make sure that you spray it quickly and thinly, but also you have to clean up your airbrush very quickly after you're done. Otherwise you're gonna have problems, and you don't want to have problems, trust me. After the initial 3 coats of primer, I wet sanded the surface with 3000 and 2000 grit sandpaper to make the surface even that much smoother, because I'm gonna apply the base coat, and that will be Tamiya's X1 gloss black, and I really wanted to make sure that it's onkidori. And this is what the car looks like after sanding. As you can see, there are some bare spots where I had to sand extra because the primer actually reveals other imperfections, and that's why it's so great to prime the model before painting it. And I had to spray it again, and with the magic of editing, here we go. Keeping with tradition, I opted for the X1 gloss black. It's a lacquer paint, acrylic, and I just sprayed over the entire body with several coats. First I started with some light coats, and afterward I just sprayed on ever so thicker to make the desired glossy effect. I do believe I made 4 passes with this X1 gloss paint, and afterwards I sealed in the paint job with Microscales Industries clear gloss. I also painted the wheels in the same color on both sides, because on the back side later on I will be painting it in metallic color. By the way, wheels were, prior to painting, painted in primer. That's why they're gray, otherwise they would be black. Here I'm detaching the interior parts from the sprue. Like I said, this car really doesn't have that many parts, so it's a really quick build. And even the engine bay, it's a little bit disappointing, because at least you would want to build an engine for the car, because, you know, it has an open hood, so yeah. Here I'm attaching the backing plate for the dividing wall, which separates the cabin of the driver and the passenger. And this part is really bad. You see, the seam line is horrendous. That's why I need to use a lot of filler, and this I used Tamiya's putty. So this is how it looks when it's putted up, and then I just sanded it out and made it smooth. This is, I think, the reservoir for coolant that goes in the engine. I'm not really sure. I've never really actually seen the engine up front, but if anybody knows what this actually is, do let me know in the comments below. But this is actually the engine bay, and it also has these vinyl tubes that you put in the engine compartment, and they should represent wires, I guess, and some drainage pipes. And although the engine bay does come pre-drilled with holes, they're way too small, so you have to enlarge it with a 1mm drill bit. So from here on out, I'm basically more liberal with what kind of paints I'm using to paint everything else. I've used the X1 gloss to paint the external body shell, but for everything else I'm just kind of winging it, using colors that I think would be more appropriate, and that's why I chose this NATO black for the base coat of the engine. Next I had to tackle this horrendous radiator, which had a bad seam on the top. It's not a big deal, I mean, you just have to scratch it off and then sand it smooth. It was done pretty quickly. Nice and smooth. Here we go. See? Much better. Now it's time for painting it. I use the same color as I did for the base coat for the engine compartment, so NATO black. Here I'm using my favorite steel color from Revell, and I'm painting the engine, the block actually, just the side of the block. The other side I will be painting in a green color. See, this deep green was for the main engine block and it really turned out great. I saw one YouTuber also already made this taxi and he painted it green and I really liked the color, so you know, I decided to do my own thing. Now here you see that when I was masking, I didn't mask it properly and there were some edges left, so I had to tidy up my paint job. This is actually a very fun thing to do. I enjoy this kind of detail work, you know, just painting, making it all pretty. Here it is, a little close-up. Now I'm using semi-gloss black for the batteries. I should have masked it off, to be honest, and spray painted it, because when you look at it close you can see all the brush strokes. I could have thinned it out a little bit better, but well, it is what it is. Here I'm spray painting in silver, I believe, actually aluminum, the top covers for, I don't know, some covers, and I'm painting this in gloss black. The inside portion of the radiator I also paint semi-gloss black. I know that the radiator is usually in one color, but I opted for some creative liberty. Here I am painting the canister thing that goes in the engine, and here I'm attaching the radiator to the engine compartment with glue, just regular cement. Here I'm detailing the battery using my little fine brush with white color, and here I'm attaching the covers for, I don't know, something. I have never seen the engine before, so I don't know what these covers are for, but they look good. See, nice and pretty. Here I'm using some white to paint this thing that I don't know what I'm painting. It's just a round circle, making sure that I don't mess it up. And sorry for the bad image quality, but this is a digital zoom on my phone. And here I'm painting the exhausts in metal color. And here I am actually putting some cement to attach the vinyl tubing that goes in the holes, and I'm attaching them. This process is a little bit tedious, and you have to use slow drying cement, otherwise you're gonna have problems. And the wires are actually not supposed to be free hanging. They're supposed to be like on the engine, so you should glue them to the engine bay. I just didn't glue them first because I wanted to do some other detail work. Like here I used just some Tamiya black panel liner to accentuate the edges, and then I used some engine grime from MIG, and some oil stains, I believe, as well, to make it more oily, I guess. But if you have that much oil on the engine, you should call your mechanic, because that wouldn't be good. But this is how it looks right now. Pretty good. I like it. Here I'm gluing this canister thing that goes into the ice inside the engine. I still don't know what it is. Can't remember, but first I had to glue some tube piping that goes on this thing, vinyl tubing. Then I'm just plopping some glue inside the hole and then plopping it inside, and then connecting the tube to the nipple in the engine compartment. So the exhaust nipple on the cylinder is a little bit too long, and I should have cut it out a little bit, and that would make the whole process a little bit better. So this is how it looks after installing it. The dashboard is very basic. Here I'm just attaching a steering column to the dashboard, and then I'm painting it in NATO black, the upper portion, and I'm also going to be painting that same color the steering wheel. Here I'm using XF77 gray color, darker gray, for the bottom carpets of the car, the interior. I went a little bit off script again. I didn't want to use the same color as they say in the manual. I went a little bit different. Here I'm masking off the edges of the seats because I'm going to be painting them in a different color. And this was a pretty simple job. As you can see, just put some masking tape on, cut it off, and it's done. I'm painting this in gloss black. Actually, no, I'm painting this in NATO black. These are the bottom seat covers, the fold-out seats. Okay, this part is a little bit of overkill. I really shouldn't have done this because it's not necessary. When you look inside the car, you really don't see this at all. But I decided to do it anyway because, you know, that's me. OCD stuff, and well, anyway, I masked it off and painted in what's this? I think it's NATO black. Yeah, I used NATO black for this part. So mask off and mask off not just this thing but everything else because I didn't want to have some overspray. And you'll see I'm using lots of masking tape here. And this is just using NATO black to spritz the color onto the base of the seat to make an edge, for whatever reason. And this is me painting in semi-gloss black the other stuff, this wall, which is sanded and painted now. Pretty cool. I did like the result. The end result was really cool. It's really contrasting. You can see the seats clearly and the back wall. Okay, so for the seats, here's a picture. This is what I wanted to achieve. I wanted to achieve a worn down seat. That's why I painted the seats in this desert yellow color. Then I will be using another product from AK Interactive, which is Scratches Worn Effect. And I will apply it over this color, wait until it dries, and afterwards I will go on with the leather color from Vallejo. And once that was dry, I used a little toothbrush to scuff up the surface and make it look worn. And I'll show you at the end, you'll see how it looks. While I was waiting the paint to dry, I proceeded to paint the bottom portion of the instrument panel in semi-gloss black. But again, you didn't really need to do this because you hardly see inside the car anyway. Here I'm using saddle brown, Vallejo color I believe it's called, to paint the seats. And once it was dry, I just used a toothbrush to scuff up, toothbrush and water to scuff up the surface to make it look more worn. This top part was really quick, so this is the end result anyway. So yeah, see? It's pretty! Anyway, to finish the effect, I used a semi-gloss clear coat to seal in the paint job. Here I'm using X18 to paint all the other trim of the interior of the car. Dope! Yeah. Splatter. This is just nasty. Nah, it's not good. Ugh. Yeah. I'll wipe it off. And nobody will be the wiser. And now I'm just painting over it, like nothing happened. Here I'm painting the gear shift knob, actually the gear shift lever and knob. And now it's time to put some decals inside the instrument panel. There's basically just three: the speedometer, the rev counter, and the display for the fuel gauge. Jesus, don't know my words. Don't know my words. Anyway, it's pretty simple. You just use this Revell decal solution or any other solution for that matter, and just plop them in, and it's easy peasy. Then use your cotton bud to push them down, make sure they're level and straight. You're done. And yeah, my lovely hands are in the way, I know, but yeah, I'm working on it. So this is how it works. This is how it looks after everything is done. And now here I'm just gluing in the steering wheel to the steering column using slow drying CA glue, thick CA glue, and here I'm fitting the back mirror. Ain't it pretty? Here I'm using some Revell's weathering powders. I'm just slapping them on and making the floors look a little bit dirty and worn. I'm using white and mud effects and just slapping it on. Nothing really precise about that. Just making sure that it's muddy. Actually, nothing else. Muddy and dusty. I know it's a little bit overkill, but the effect is subtle. I make sure that it's not too much. I also put it on the seats to make sure that, you get kind of dirty seats. People do stuff on the back of the taxi cab. Fake taxi. Anyway, this is how it looks. And then I seal it in with the pigment fixer from AK Interactive. Here I am inserting the gear shift and the instrument panel that just slots in and glues into place. And that's basically the interior of the car. Oh, one other thing. I have to put this dividing wall, the window. I painted the sides in I think it's orchid brown, and then use some pigments to make it more yellowy, so that to simulate wood. I didn't film this because my SD card ran out of memory, and before I noticed it, it was too late. So this next part is a bit tedious and time consuming, but I wanted to paint the chrome trim around the windows, so that's why I'm masking all around. For this part, you really need a steady hand and a very sharp blade. I was being a bit naughty, and my blade was not sharp, so I had problems. So if you decide to do this, just make sure your blade is like brand new, because trust me, otherwise you're gonna have problems in the long run. I masked off the front and the back because I didn't want to go overspray inside the car. And I actually masked everything else with the same masking tape. I use a lot of masking tape. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I could have used some paper, but no, I use masking tape. Why? Because it's convenient. Yes. So you see me covering the whole model with masking tape because, God forbid overspray, it's death. So yeah. Now I'm just gonna be spray painting this. This is how it looks, the masking job done now. And now I'm painting it, just spray painting AK's Interactive enamel-based chrome color. It's a really good color. It sprays on nicely, very thinly, and the effect is just phenomenal. You don't need to thin it out. It's usable right out the box, actually right out the bottle. And one other thing, to make it work, the surface must be absolutely smooth, and otherwise you're gonna have a bad result. But if it's smooth like it was in my case, it's gonna turn out brilliant. And because my masking job was not that great, you can see that I have some overspray, and now I'm just touching it up with my trusty paintbrush in the same color that I used to paint the body, which was X1 from Tamiya. Now notice that the first window has a dividing rod, and this one is painted in black because it's supposed to be black and not with the color of trim. Yes, this is how it looks now. Pretty much good. Now here I'm just painting other things in chrome color. I made sure that I masked off everything except the roof because I was being lazy. But this is how it looks. It's pretty good. I did like the end result. Here's me in my bathroom. I wanted to remove the chrome from the chrome parts because why not? Actually, I'm using this gel to unclog the drains, and it works really fast and really well. I just agitate the sprue with my toothbrush, and as you can see, this is sped up, of course, but it does really work really quickly. I think it takes about 2 minutes, and afterwards you have to rinse it off, of course, because this stuff is nasty. I cut out all the pieces and sanded them, and then I proceeded painting them in chrome. I do apologize for this next clip because it's gonna be bad. Yeah, you can't see. I forgot to unzoom, so here it is. Here it is. Oh yeah, look at that. Here again. Yeah, actually it's coming together, but I'm sorry. Actually I painted all the trim in chrome. Here I'm inserting the disc brakes into the wheels and gluing them up, and afterwards I'm going to be painting them. Here I'm painting the steering mechanism, the bottom portion of steering mechanism. This model actually has a working steering, so you can move the wheels left and right, but it does go left and right really stiffly because it has a little notch, and you have to be careful not to break something, and I did. That's why I'm telling you, just be careful. Make sure that you do it very gingerly, but you can move the steering. Here I'm painting, yeah, here you see the painting of the wheels in steel color. The underside of the car was painted in matte black, and I went on several coats with this paint to cover all the angles, because as you can see, all the detail is just molded inside. And that's not really preferred method, but it's better than nothing. And now I'm just painting all the details on the bottom, like the oil pan here and the exhaust. This is actually the last stretch of the build. I inserted all the chrome trim into the car. I didn't film a couple of steps here. I do apologize again. I thought I did, but I guess I didn't, because again, I think that the memory card issue was present, because these videos take a lot of memory, and I only have, I think, 64 gigs in my Samsung Galaxy S, and it gets filled up pretty quickly when you film non-stop for the whole build and not check your mobile phone. Actually, I'm just here attaching the decals for the outside of the car and the taxi sign on top. Here I am attaching the license plate and serial number of the car. And this is actually the last build portion of this video, because like I said, I lost everything else. So the next shots is going to be just the finished model. And this is how it looks. The car is a bit weathered. I weathered it up a little bit, so those specks that you see are not actually faults, but intentional. I've tried to do a good job of weathering, but I think I still need a little time. I'm pretty happy with the bottom portion of the car. I do like the muddy and grubbly bottom portion, but I still need to work on my weathering of everything else, the outside. This is the engine compartment. Of course, you can barely see it because the hinges are too shallow, and the car actually runs because it has polycaps. So that's a neat thing. And there's a little rust on each end of the chrome trim in the front bumper, and of course the grille, some lights, yeah, some nice shots. Well, that's basically it. That's it. That's the model. Beautiful model. Recommended to just about anybody, even a beginner. It's really easy, really simple to put together. It has some cool features such as, you know, the working hood, but you have to kind of make sure that those hinges are a little bit more loose so you can lift it up higher. And also I didn't put inside a hood stand, because there's supposed to be a hood stand so you can lift up the hood and make it stay up, but because I stuffed up the hinges, I didn't put it in. So anyway, it also has a battery compartment in the back. You can put one AA battery, and you can fit it out with the connectors and make the lights go, because they have a hollow tube here. You can run a diode here and then just run the wires to the back. You could also be fancy and do the blinkers, and if you really want to get crazy, the taxi sign on top, but that's a little bit more work. Anyway, a simple model, quick to build, small part count, good model to start weathering. I really like. I'm surprised how much I actually enjoyed building it. It's just a joy to do. So thank you for watching. If you haven't, thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing, and I'll see you again soon in the next one. Bye bye.